Yeah, I'm calling that game on September 11th between the Titans and the Giants. Seems fitting since for the past those Nephilim teams are meeting of to be part two, and a number of people, and I couldn't comment about her dreams, and I going there on the comments and click then at that point. Me when I tell you I'm not down. I've had years, and those were two people who seem to have an agenda. But I don't take off opinion. I let it stand. Anyway, pasted her dream in. If you watch the first one, milk this thing. I'm trying. This is, as far as I'm concerned, through somebody. He does it. September 11th until give me some more information. What we're going to be talking about today, but as well. Jim, about my confirmation about the video. Remember, I had asked God a video on her dream. That morning, I saw the word Titan. If I'd taken a couple of more steps, I'd never been able to see it. And saw I was going to and said, "Hey, do you know?" Because as it turns out, Nissan makes the take on the Giant. I had asked God. Someone had come up that later this morning he's going to his dream. It will also tie into the is played. I would information still going. It could still just be a coincidence. I mean, what do I expect him to do when I go to my front door with a video? On that subject, let me end this as we go information to my interpretation. The video on it. Interpretation could be dead wrong. Okay? Before I get to the actual content, have some at the stadium, it's next to the name is a combination company. The first three for one, SAN for the other, Nissan. So it salad. And why such an unexciting meal? Because I do this. It's like cramming. Going to make up for my. But fear not. This is waiting. It's up on the top of. Hang in there. In the car on the way back. Nissan. I know a word I know or heard. I found that it is a Hebrew word. Less S, Nisan is a Hebrew month. Of course, I forgot. It's Nissan. First month. A meaning. Well, was don't show them. Accomplished talking about the R word. When the new moon gets here on the 25th, now I'm back on it. From the people, I hate that. So let me show you the letter of Nissan and so or I can't from confirmations, clues and hints. Many coincidences. Could there be one or two in here, maybe? To be for. Repeatedly, I believe it can. This is on Feast of Trumpets. But I'm not going to talk about it. Glory's description of the dream, she thinks it may be a part of that day. I think that's what she. It's of no more important than your daughter showing us that he's talking. I hesitated of tying that to being Nephilim. Well, why do I? When you realize this Antichrist figure, we still have prophecy teachers who are it's going to be European. No, these theories because we know he's going to be powerful. We who 4 or 5 part has all the academic credentials you want, who's written a book. Antichrist is what confuse there say that Tartarus with the fallen the bottomless pit, the world looking for. Are they saying something that's what if Nephilim are in there in the abyss, in the bottomless pit? To sit on the seat of David or to be. That's why we see Christ's ancestry is the Son of Man while also being the Son of God, but he is fully human. If I got that.
Strong's G30 monogenes.
It's going to be from Satan's. If Satan didn't need the human lineage, power to Christ, I always thought it was power because he's the offspring and ancestry. What I want to show you, and it begins and it's interesting that the third line Christ that comprises more chapters than man's line. There's a lot of activity going on in that. And begins perfectly of on September 2017. In that line of events. Well, of heaven and down to the earth. So I have high confidence if I add in your answer, if that event happened, has Satan been for me? Did some research. The census that I find where an overwhelming number and a strange and few years. Would it himself in some way we're big just most of you will say that you believe in myself. Now, the dragon, Satan, not Nephilim, he's pure, pointing us something that involves the Nephilim. This event, this heaven was Satan. Next event. Rise out of the matter is what I'm have to take line, that third line. It's just when you see him rising, see in chapter 13, don't take that as a process of him arriving on the scene, fatal wound to the head, and that process contains so many events that have to be accomplished. Has got to start pretty soon. We're close to end times. Response. God saying, you looking for all of us be looking for anything, the answer, pointing out something, because that to happen. That Lori's dream before the announcement of the Nephilim, the Titans against the giants, and then it quickly changed. No, but expect necessarily that there's it on DirecTV, because it's not spectacular is going to happen in that of the Nephilim. Things in the place after them. Huge management group, banker investment. And it made big news, headline news. Again, to the report that I follow. Love them. I mean, have no idea. Even said, how about Apollo money? Apollo, it seemed completely reasonable to that company. Yeah. About the Nephilim loves. Well, they're about September 12th. We'll carefully. 11th. I may have said September 11th. But too many coincidences. God bless you. After September.